first and foremost, welcome into MVHQ. We're very excited to have you here. There are quite a few holders and players and fans of Pirate Nation. We have a sort of like a thread, like a sub discussion going on where people are strategizing and playing and keeping up to date. We're keeping an eye on Pirate Nation, I should say. So we're excited to have you in here today to talk about the game, what you have in store, and what it's taken to build this. So I'm TopHatCat. I'm going to be hosting you guys today. If you could, just to get us started, if you could just maybe go through and give a brief introduction from each person from the team that's going to be speaking with us here today, and maybe just give us a little bit about yourself, just a little blurb, maybe your zodiac sign or something, I don't know, or just how you got into Web3, just to kick stuff off and sort of get comfortable.
Sure, I can go first. I'm the CEO of Proof of Play. Let's see. I was in the CryptoKitties beta, and I was just hacking on random Ethereum stuff before the NFT spec came out. So pretty much been there since day one, and built a NFT marketplace back in 2018. Contributed to the ERC 1155 spec, and just actually getting around to actually building real games now on chain. So it's been quite a ride.
I'll go next. Adam, I'm our product lead. I joined right around the founding of the company. I have been working in startups, tech my whole career. I decided a couple years ago that the crypto was the future and I wanted to be part of a really early stage startup again. I was a really early employee at Square. I was on the founding team of the Cash App. I was the head of product for their loan division at Square, and just bounced around a bunch, and I saw this tech and I was like, okay, this is going to be foundational. This is really important. I think there's some real use cases to explore here. I was introduced to Amit through a mutual friend, and we really hit it off, and I was really excited to bring my skills of simplifying really complicated flows and experiences and make them simple. And I really think there's a real need in crypto and blockchain to simplify things, and so we can onboard the masses eventually. So I wanted to bring my skill set here and apply it specifically to our game and to our game platform. And I'm a Pisces, which is, that's just my fish.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Cool. Okay. So appreciate it, fellas. Nice introduction. So we got some OG Web3, some OG Web2. Sounds like CryptoKitties and, founding Cash App. Those are pretty cool. So sweet. Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Let's go ahead and take us through Pirate Nation. We're gonna deep dive into all the different topics and stuff, but I guess just let's start us off with kind of like an overview for people who maybe aren't familiar, who haven't played the game, and this is their first time hearing about it. Maybe just give us what's the idea behind Pirate Nation?
Sure. So Pirate Nation is a completely on-chain RPG. I spent many years building kind of casual games at Zynga. So I was the lead developer of Farmville. I built the game engine for Zynga, which then powered all of their Flash games. I was at Epic before that, working on game engines. So Pirate Nation is kind of interesting because it's an on-chain game, but it's also like it's a first application of this on-chain game engine that we've built. And so the game itself it's really simple. It's kind of very much in the vein of the old kind of invest and express type Zynga games, where you build up an economy, you have a base, you collect items, you build up your crew, and then you go attack. You attack bosses, you attack other players. The whole point of the game is basically to create these opportunities for our community to collaborate with each other or compete with each other, and they do that by kind of building up their pirate crew and going on adventures. The game is interesting, the way we've kind of built it is a little bit different than how I've built games in the past, where we basically launched the game very early, and we've been iterating on it. Every week we're launching new features. We keep building, and so I think we launched the game December 6th or so, and for the last 3 months, we've just been launching new stuff every week. So if anyone's in our Discord, they can see it. We have this arc where just up until recently, we've been building up to in the form of these like big world bosses. And our community, I think like 2 days ago, just took down. They all got together and took down the first world boss. So it was this like really cool event and opportunity for people to like, not just play the game itself, but play with each other. And that's kind of how we think about blockchain games in general, is that there are these opportunities for people to come together and feel connected and feel like they're part of something bigger than just playing a game by themselves. And so Pirate Nation it's meant to be a vehicle for creating those sort of engagement, for that sort of engagement.
Love it. Yeah. I would say we've been highly engaged. I'm going to go ahead and just throw a disclaimer here towards the beginning. I do hold pirates. So yeah, I'm going to be, obviously I have bags, right? But I'm going to be pretty fair in my questions here as best I can. But yeah, MVHQ is we're following along, man. So yeah, the world boss, talk to me a little bit about that. What was that like, sort of, rolling out a live experience like that? Or maybe you could kind of just focus in on that one, maybe explain get everybody up to date for those that aren't privy to what went down. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that stuff is exciting.
Adam, you want to take this one?
Sure. So the exciting thing about world bosses is we are developing, I've been saying this and I'm pretty sure that it's accurate, the first fully on-chain world boss in real time. So the cool thing about that is, there's a proof of concept on the tech side, which succeeded with, far exceeded our highest expectations. Like, it worked. There were no bugs. There was like no problems with it. Everyone who fought, was able to fight successfully. Were able to show that it was provably fair. People played within the confines of the rules, like nobody really cheated or like tried to do anything nefarious. It kind of speaks to the quality and the caliber of the community that we've cultivated to date. But the idea behind world bosses was, can we build a feature that has an inner meta and an outer meta? And the outer meta is people collaborating, like in old school social games, to work together towards a common goal. And can everyone get together on the same page using Discord to create like a guild, effectively? It's a very loose guild where everyone's going after Bruce. And so for anyone who doesn't know what the game was, we put 3 world bosses up with the same levels of health, and the community had to work together to take down as many as they could within the confines of, I think, 4 or 5 days. If they took down a boss, they got participation awards. The top 25 damage dealers would receive outsized rewards. Every boss they took down, they get more rewards. So there was this interesting game theory. Which boss do we take down? How do we take them down? What is the composition of the players in the game? What are the affinities associated with our players? How can we take down the bosses? What is the strategy? And it was the first time we sort of showed them what we can do in terms of engagement. They had to think strategically around what pirate to use and what moves to use. And there was an element of RNG, but there was also strategy. And people were learning and improving together. And they were leveling each other up. It was the most we've ever seen our Discord engaged. And it's exactly what we were hoping to see. We wanted to see people collaborating. We wanted to see people coordinating with each other. And there was one really interesting thing which we did, which was, we said, for the person who gets the kill shot, you get a 1 of 1. And so what that did was it slowed down the battle dramatically for the last day or so. The community could have taken down, probably, now that it's over, mathematically they could have taken down 2 bosses. But there was this like game of chicken towards the end where everyone wanted to get the kill shot. They wanted the 1 of 1. And so they all collectively slowed down, and they went from a PvE situation to a PvP, where they were no longer competing against the bosses because they knew the boss was going to fall. They just wanted that 1 of 1. And so we introduced a really cool game dynamic there that changed the whole makeup of the competition for the very end. And as a result of that, people, it was like basically a prisoner's dilemma. People decided not to cooperate. One person won, and the rest of them, like, one lost, because they still get the participation awards, which are very rich. But at the same time, they didn't get double the rewards which they could have received. So it was a cool showing of how we can introduce social and an outer meta to the game that we built. And that was the first instance of doing that, which we're going to do a lot more. But as far as an experiment and a test goes, it was a huge success. And we've been going through the data. Every metric that we wanted to moved, dramatically and far exceeded our expectations.
Man, that is so That's so fascinating. I'm really excited to talk about this, and I love that you called it at the end there an experiment or a test. And I was going to ask, how far within your bounds did things play out? Like, did you anticipate that it would, cause that dynamic, that ripple when you switched it to the kill shot 1 of 1? Like, did you guys think that was, how it would play out, or you guys kind of learning as you go?
100%.
All right, I love it.
Yeah, no, it was all that was on the cards. I mean, like almost. I feel like almost everything that we've done has been like fairly intentional. Like we haven't been surprised that often, right, Adam? Like, I mean, most of the things most things that have happened in the game, we've kind of we've game theoried out, and they've played out pretty much the way we thought.
To put this in perspective, our head of studio game designer William, he forecasted out before the event started when it was going to end, like within a couple of hours. So people's behavior were very predictable, which is good. The fact that we can predict behavior is really good because it means we can model what we want to see in the game. And people did exactly what we expected them to do.
Yeah, he basically had he had the kill time for Bruce down to like the hour.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. We were all like very impressed. But like he's a pro. He's been in the industry for 30 years, so of course he knows what he's doing.
I was going to say it's really impressive too that you guys haven't had most things have been calculated from your all's end before they went out, because the breakneck speed that you guys have been doing these rollouts, like you said, it's been 3 months of like an update a week basically. Like it's tons of new stuff constantly, so being able to kind of predict how everyone's going to interact with that stuff, I would imagine gets harder and harder as you keep adding more layers on top of it. But kudos, yeah, and testament to your team if they're able to keep the genie in the bottle. That's incredible. I want to make one more quick little shout out. If people have questions, I mean, most people know the drill, but just so you guys know, if anyone has questions, go ahead and drop those in guest questions, and we'll make sure to get those answered from the team here. But I'm more than happy to kind of just talk, game dynamic for a little bit. We like on chain, we like, prisoner dilemma, we like game theory, we love that shit. So, is there anything you could tell me about other interesting ways maybe coming soon that you guys might be messing with our minds a little bit, or just working with that kind of social gamification element?
I can say one thing. So I mentioned experiment before. Everything that we do that we roll out is an experiment. It's why we work in 1 week sprints, because we take a feature and we try to time box and we say, what can we accomplish within a week or 2 weeks in some cases? And, how can we work towards that goal in order to advance our goals of like building this like very exciting, largest, fully on-chain game that crypto has seen. And so we're constantly playing with, what do we think people are going to do? How do we want them to behave? And we work backwards from our goal, very normal product development process. One thing that is going on simultaneously with this is our weekly YARG, which, obviously we're not able to attend. But if you were on that YARG, you would hear this bit of alpha, specifically around like there are some things in the game that people have no idea what they do. Right. And like we've been putting them in the chests, like they're pretty much impossible to earn in the game. Like they're like the 1% items. And we're going to start talking a little bit about what those things are. And so specifically, there's fish food and creative bananas in the game. People have been speculating about what they're for. And what I'll tell you a little bit here, I'm not going to give you away too much, but people love the world bosses. The world bosses were an event that we created, that we triggered, but we're really interested in exploring a world in which players can trigger a world boss event, and perhaps those items, which are really hard to come by, might be part of the process for instigating and creating one of those events from a player side. So I'll leave you with that as far as like what the game theory, however you want to game theory that out, and what the rewards might be for having those items. But just a little bit of alpha for this group, which is going out alongside the YARG right now.
Love that. That's pretty exciting. Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of like, like World of Warcraft, like World First, or like, opening the AZ gates and stuff, or AQ gates, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like a world event that everybody's working together, but throwing in NFTs in there that you actually own. So yeah, gamify away, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits of our team is just like, it's like all veterans. Like, Adam mentioned, William's got like 30 years in the games industry. I've I'm getting there. I'm like 20-ish years in now myself. And like I played the WoW beta, like, I was max cap in Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14. Wow. Like we have all the prior art. We've seen the stuff that was cool before, and we know what like kind of blew us away. And now our the thing that we think about is like, how can we create the, it's not a matter of like recreating the specific experience, but how do you recreate the feeling, right? That feeling of, wow, I can't believe we accomplished this together, or creating these opportunities for players to compete with each other. Like the PvP at the end of the World Boss event was a great example of that. And like, we've only just started to hit on those things. So like when I would say the game that we've launched is not complete. It's still, and I don't mean like, oh, we're going to do more development. I mean, like, actually, if you think about it from a game design perspective, up until the World Boss event, there wasn't an actual compulsion to do the things that you were doing, right? Like you were like going on quests, you were like crafting stuff, you were like accumulating a bunch of resources, but there was no end to it, right? There was no point to it.
More of the expectation that you guys would make it cool eventually, right? Like, I'm gonna better stock up on shit because we know they're cooking something, right?
Exactly. And like, kudos and like, thank you for having that trust in us, because like, I think many people don't see it, right? And that's like, if there's any alpha, like, here's the alpha I would give you on us, is like, we're 18 people, and this team is just, I'm like so privileged to be working with these people every day, because they're just absolute killers, right? Like I was actually off the grid for a few days during the World Boss launch, like completely off the grid. I didn't have access to internet or anything, and the team completely executed on it, like essentially flawlessly. And it was like, so I came back and the event was launched. Bruce was like halfway down, and it was just amazing seeing like everything that happened. And like, we just, and like, I know that we don't have full bios of everyone, and a lot of people want us to respect their privacy, but to give you some context here, like our head of studio was like a head of studio at Disney. Our head of engineering was a tech lead at Riot on League of Legends. He was also like a multi-time startup founder. Adam obviously has his background at Square, and I'm like at Epic and Zynga, and have started and sold companies before. And so like, the team is like really, really, really stacked. And like, the fact that we're launching weekly, like look around, look at other Web3 projects. It's just not happening that way. And like, it's weird because, we're like kind of leaning into that, because that's the only way I know how to build stuff, is to just like build early and build, just build up, release early and just keep iterating as fast as you can. And so I tell folks internally, I'm like, look, like our ability to launch quickly is a competitive advantage. It's what sets us apart from most teams out there. And so like, we're not always going to get it right, but what we are going to do is keep shipping product, keep improving the game. And, it's like climbing a mountain or running a marathon. It's not about, each individual step. It's the combination of those 10,000 steps you took to get to the goal. And, in that vein, there's one thing that's not very obvious about what we're doing, at least if you visit the Pirate Nation website, is that underneath the covers and all this stuff, we have about 30 smart contracts that are running. And we have all of this infrastructure that we're building. So every time, like alongside the public releases that you're seeing in the game itself, we're also building like a platform for building on-chain games. And so every time we release a new feature, we also have a little bit of a tech improvement as well. And each one of these tech improvements, it's an acceleration on us. So when we first launched, for example, Pirate Nation, it was pretty hard to like add new quests to the game or to like add new items to the game. So part of what we were doing is we were building a content management system, like a way for our game designers to add stuff, without writing any code, and be able to upload it to be on chain. And so in addition to kind of building our game, we're also building out this tool chain. And this tool chain, as it develops, allows us to move faster and faster and faster and faster. So, with the most recent release, we launched, World Bosses, but we also launched combat. So now we have in kind of this combat system that we can not just use for, World Bosses, but we could use it for things like PvP. We could use it for things like other forms of gameplay. And so like, And what's crazy about it is that because everything is on chain, it's all composable. It's like DeFi, right? Like these things are building blocks for other products. So, if I were to go and launch, a swap mechanic within Pirate Nation, I'd probably just use the Uniswap protocol, right? If we were to like do something like, allowing people to borrow NFTs, we would use like one of the other kind of NFT renting protocols that are out there. Those things then become building blocks for other people. In the same vein, everything that we're doing within Pirate Nation, these 30 smart contracts, each one of these is a building block, not just for us, but for other companies as well, for other game teams. And so, that's the point of proof of play. So yes, there's, Pirate Nation is kind of our first like foray into building this type of game, but proof of plays like, vision and thesis is around building these, this platform that makes it really easy for anyone to be able to build on-chain experiences. And so we're only starting to touch on that stuff, and you'll see more technical articles and stuff come out from us in the future talking about like how we're doing that. But like that's kind of the main thrust of the company. And so if you think about what Pirate Nation is, then Pirate Nation is kind of it's the entry point into that entire ecosystem of content that we're going to create.
And I'll put like a very fine point on this. We went through, we take our community recommendations very seriously. We love building alongside them. Like the passion is there and we love to reward them for engaging. So we found a cool suggestion the other day in our suggestion channel. And if you're playing or you're in our Discord, like we definitely encourage you to get in there. Like we really do listen to them. We read them, we debate them. We took an idea yesterday for a quest and we're going to launch it during our release tomorrow. We saw it at like 2 p.m. yesterday and it's going to go live on Thursday. And that's because of the quest system that Amit was talking about. It's that easy. And it was really done within like an hour or so, probably a lot less, but let's just call it an hour. It's just going to go through testing and then it's going to go live. And so like that's part of the composability and the flexibility of the tool set that we're building. So what you see is a fun pirate game. And what we see is like the matrix and everything that's underlying it.
Fellas, wow, whoa, easy, come on, that's a lot to unpack. Oh my goodness. How is my question? Like how, like you guys are crushing these, like week sprints to implement new features, but you're not just getting them in the game, you're building for way further down in the line and for all these other future utilities and stuff. That seems just impossible. It seems wild. Like this is almost euphoric right now. Like I need some FUD to bring me back down to earth. Like it's just crazy. I mean, kudos to your team. Are you guys like you guys have top talent as well? Are you guys just like loaded? Like I'm like mind blown right now. Like how are you guys getting this done? Is like you said 18 people on the team. Like is your all's runway like super healthy? Like because it seems like people be burned out if they're implementing a feature per week and it has all these all these bells and whistles to it. Or am I just not picturing it right?
No, I think you're thinking about it the right way, but I don't know. You can get to like the idea. There's an equivalent of like a runner's high for builders, right? Like it's possible to get to a point where you just get into a really great flow state as a team where things are just clicking, right? And you have enough redundancy in every role where people are relying on. I mean, the team, the vibes internally are just like immaculate. So they're so good, right? It's just like people want to win and they want to feel like their work matters and they want to feel like they're being challenged. And like that's what we provide as like a company to our employees, right? Is that we're just like creating this environment where people get to do stuff that's really cool and they get to work with really other talented people and they feel that that leadership is like constantly just trying to up level the bar and like and so it's I don't know, it's just really fun. And when you're having fun, it doesn't feel like work.
I know that's true. I haven't worked this hard since I was like 21 and 22 and I was putting in, 100-hour weeks at Square when the company was 100 people and we were just like trying to figure out how to make it work. But it like, to go to Amit's point, like it's fun. Like I love that we're pushing the boundaries forward. I love that we're inventing stuff that no one is doing. I love that we've been able to simplify this thing and create something that no one has created yet. And I love that our competitive advantage is we actually know how to build stuff and we're creating. We're not just what we're not as good at is talking about what we're doing, but we are good is like doing, right? So we're going to start talking a lot more about what we're doing more of these, like being a lot more public with the infrastructure and the tech that we've built, because I think people don't quite realize like what really is being created in this business, and like the major opportunity, as like crypto and blockchain becomes more important, especially for gaming, like that we want to be there. We're going to be the foundational company that everyone's going to want to use their tech of, because we're building it for ourselves, and we're building it with love, and we're building it with like a lot of diligence.
Love it, man. Okay, so yeah, and side note, I think you're doing a fantastic job talking about it right now. This is great. So passion was the variable that I'm missing. You guys have all of this other stuff lined up, but then also there's a passion on top where you guys are like actually like give a fuck and like are trying really hard, which is missing from a lot of projects. Well, cool. Yeah, I'm happy we're here talking about it. We got some guest questions piling up, so we'll be sure to get through those. One of them, you were kind of talking about earlier, so I want to kind of start there. I'll be kind of all over the place a little bit as I try to get answers to all of these. But you had talked about proof of play, sort of, you're building out these components to where you can, compostability, and you can kind of pivot and use different, things to make different games and stuff. So are you envisioning proof of play as a studio, as like a launch pad for other games, or are you guys going to be developing the games, and is Pirates your sole focus right now?
Pirates is the sole focus. My view is if we can't make Pirate Nation work, it doesn't matter, right? No one's going to use our stuff if like we can't make it work for ourselves, right? Like no one's going to use Unreal Engine if Unreal didn't work. No one's going to, like the whole point is that the game is the marketing piece for the technology. So, everything we're doing is on how do we make Pirate Nation a success? And just to give you context, like for us, success means like millions of players. Right? Like that's where we're going. It's not, we're not trying to target like a niche thing. We intentionally have kept the game somewhat small currently because it allows us to iterate on the mechanics. But like to me, like there's no other option other than to reach millions of players. Like that is success, and that's the minimum bar for success. And like, we've done it before. And so it's and we know what it feels like. At Farmville we hit 1 million players in 4 days. Right? Like it's just something we've done. And like Adam scaled massive products also, in his previous life. So like, that's where we're going with it. And then like in terms of the launchpad, TBD, like I think more than not, the way that I'm thinking about it is that, it's all about how do you create the same vibe that existed for modders, for like Quake and Warcraft, etc. The things that resulted in Counter-Strike getting created, the things that resulted in Dota getting created. How do you create that kind of environment where someone could take Pirate Nation, modify it, and create something brand new, and like launch their own token, launch their own NFT collection, and like it just kind of but it utilizes almost all the smart contract code that we've already written, and just allows them to just like upload new art or like change some game mechanics, and now they have something completely new. Like that's where we want to get to in terms of how to use the technology. But it's gonna take a little bit to get there, just because we have to make it work first.
Yeah, would like Roblox be a fair extension? Because I'm not too familiar, but I know it's sort of Minecrafty, but also with like coding components where people can build games and experiences and stuff like that. Your picture is that a fair comparison?
I think Roblox is a good comp. There's something in between like Roblox and like the old school moddability of PC games.
Yeah, I got you. Where you got to get down.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, one more follow up. Would you say proof of play is the Stripe of Web3 gaming?
It's an interesting analogy. It's an interesting analogy. I would say yeah. Actually, yes. You know what? I'll say yes. That seems about right.
You heard it here, folks.
No, it's really interesting because normally when I think of Stripe or Web3 gaming, I think of things that are just APIs, right? It's almost diminishing in some ways. Like it's almost like underselling what we're doing. And so because there's a bunch of services out there that exist today, like Immutables out. I mean, Immutables are maybe a good example too. Is like you basically have like a minting API, right? But we have a I don't know. I'm curious to get your guys' take on this. We have a fundamental view of like an NFT. If you have a gaming NFT and the company that minted that NFT, if they never launch a game or they shut down the server that are associated with that game, that NFT essentially loses the majority of its value, right? So like, if you're playing, whatever, Gods Unchained, and they shut down the Gods Unchained servers, and there's no way to actually like keep using the Gods Unchained cards, do the Gods Unchained cards still have any value? And if that's the case, then are you truly an owner, and have you truly captured the value in that gaming NFT? Or do you need the utility aspect of it to keep existing in order for that NFT to keep having the value that, it's imbued with? And so we're taking the position of the permanence of the servers and the game itself actually matters to maintain the value of the asset. But I'm curious how you guys are thinking about it, because I know you're thinking about these things all day. So how do you think about that when you're picking up new picking new games to invest in?
Listen, man, we try not to think about it. No, I'm just kidding. You're right on the money. It's tough because in the NFT space, you usually have one of two situations happen. You have an EtherOrcs situation, which is exactly what you just described. You have the assets, the game ceases development. Well, what do you have now? Now you have a brick. Nothing. It doesn't have utility. Maybe it's a collector's item for people that are nostalgic. Maybe you hope the community open sources something and it has a future life or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe you hope that you get in a snapshot for being a holder. There's no value there really. Or you have a Northern Guild situation where the game just never comes out and the company goes bankrupt before there's even a game at all. So you've never had anything and you still continue to have nothing. So I don't think most are thinking that far ahead, but it is an interesting conversation to have because, the whole allure of Web3 gaming is like taking ownership back, right? It's like you're not renting a few megabytes of an unlocked code for a skin. You actually own the skin, but if the servers go down for the game, do you really own the skin? So it's kind of a chicken egg, just sort of conundrum, right? So if you're working to solve a problem that most people don't even see on the horizon, then I think your head's in the right place. I don't know the solution. Is there a solution that you guys are posing? Is it sort of this compostability, this ability to flex and mod and sort of be, adaptive?
Well, no. I mean, so the solution is that we have already solved it, right? So the game itself is on chain, which essentially means that, all of the gameplay logic is on chain. If we go away, you can keep playing Pirate Nation, right? Like if, you can actually keep, because all the contracts they're on public blockchains. And, if it'd be hard to, but, you can actually go and we probably open source the clients, but the whole point is that like, we don't actually run any servers, right? And so to me, the only solve for this, the way to create forever games is to make them on chain. And, we're definitely ahead of the curve here and we know it. But I think like as people become more sophisticated, as folks start to realize, there's a reason on-chain art is so popular. It's because, everything about that asset is contained within the blockchain. In the same vein, everything about Pirate Nation is contained within the blockchain, right? There's your client is just talking directly to a blockchain, and you're never talking to any servers. So it's not, in that way, it's completely decentralized.
Yeah, I think the game, quote unquote, the game is more the company continuing to exist and roll out updates and patches and stuff. Because the same could be said for EtherOrcs. Like they're all smart contracts, right? So it's all public, it's on chain. So you could say EtherOrcs is still going, but is it like by who? You know what I mean? So it's like nobody's really going to stir up and keep the game living on. So I don't know if necessarily just being on chain is enough to just make it permanent. I guess in theory it could, but in practice, it's just, people just aren't going to, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And that's like, I think that's more in nature of where I think the industry is as a whole, right? Like it's, there was a moment where people like didn't expect multiplayer. This is back in like the early PC days. It was like, oh, like your game's just a single player game. That's fine. But then folks are like, what, I can't play on the internet? Like, I think what happens is the window of expectation shifts as players become more familiar with a new platform. And so, my sense is that that's probably going to be the case. It's going to take a few years for that to kick in. But the nice thing is that it's so hard to build this stuff, and it's like so challenging to build that we're going to be way ahead of the curve. And so, the reason to essentially buy a Founders Pirate today is because that's essentially a access pass into all the other things that we're doing. People think about these things as in-game characters, but we basically see them as like the equivalent of like pieces that you can take from one universe to another, and everything that's built within our ecosystem, it's all meant to be compatible. And so it's, people always talk about like, the interoperability of blockchain games, but we're actually architecting everything in a way where it's actually true. And so that's the intention behind it.
Yeah, I think you guys are well ahead of the pack there, and I want to kind of walk back sort of part of my statement. I wasn't suggesting this is a problem you guys needed to solve. I think it's a problem that exists in regular games, right? Like all online games now, they'll just cut your servers, and it's like, oh shit, I guess I can't play, Overwatch 1 anymore. It's just gone. Like that's not a problem I expected you guys to solve, or really Web3 in general to solve. I think that's just kind of a problem with where we are with games, games as a service being online.
Technically, our client could go away and you could play the game like directly through the contracts. It's not going to be for everyone, but like Amit's statement about like us going away and the game living on is technically true. Like the contracts will continue to live on. You'll hit max level 30, and then we'll have no content design if you're after that. But like it is doable. Amit, you have this anecdote that you like to tell around like Farmville, and I think it's really like proves.
Yeah, let me share it. So like basically, Farmville had 300 million players. We had 1 billion hours of player time put into it. And there was a lot of, it wasn't just like, at some point games, especially long living online games, they're not just like games anymore. They're places for communities to gather. They're places for people to express their creativity. We had people doing wedding proposals and stuff in Farmville. It was like nuts. Right. And in 2021, Zynga shut the servers down because Flash was deprecated and the clients wouldn't work anymore in modern browsers. But all of that data was essentially locked up in Zynga's database and wiped out when they shut it down. And so those 1 billion hours of investment are just gone. And what's nuts is that there was never even a chance for it to keep going. Right. And so but what's cool is that you start to see it that when people have access to the data, there is definitely folks who keep especially if they're really tied into the community, they keep these games going, right? And just to be clear, we're not going anywhere. We have we have years of funding. We're super solid and stable and just excited to keep working on this stuff. So we're not going anywhere. But the point is can we systemically build stuff in a way that actually is that's actually taking advantage of the point of the blockchain, taking advantage of the point of Web3, which is this idea of open data read, the idea of permanence, the idea of composability. And so we're you could say that we're sometimes I say, hey, maybe we're being too idealistic, but fuck it, why not, right? I'm in this game, I'm in this space because I believe in the power of what these things could be taken to their limit. So let's push it to its limit, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
I love it. Yeah, I think you're embracing the best parts of blockchain. That's awesome, and you're doing a fantastic job doing it. I guess I'm going to try and get some more through some more of these guest questions, and I kind of have one where I have a little bit of a personal take too. I can share my personal experience, but I'm going to read here from Heart of Texas. He said a question he gets often is, how many pirates do I need in order to really be able to play? It seems like there's a sizable advantage right now to have multiple pirates in order to crank out resources. Can you guys let us know a little bit about how you're thinking about the current sinks for the materials / in-games item, and perhaps a bit about how you envision enhancing the gameplay for those players who may just have one pirate? So yeah, I'm in the boat of just a piddly squad. I've got 3 pirates, and it takes me a while to accumulate enough base level materials to upgrade to do the higher level quest, and then some of the really high level quests I don't even have the materials for yet. So whereas I know some people, if they have a whole fleet, right, they have 50 pirates, they can get a month's worth of my grinding done in a day. So yes, what are you guys' thoughts there? I know it's kind of a unique, well, it's not unique to Web3, but it's amplified with the whale activity, right? People hoarding resources and stuff. And I think that's plenty enough to answer. And then I have a follow-up question as well.
So as far as what the optimal number of pirates to own is to play the game and not feel like you're making minimal progress, it's probably around 10 or so as of right now. We've looked at the data. We know what our retention curves look like by player count. We know where the strengths and the weaknesses of the game are, and we know that between 1 and 3 pirates, where you are right now, is the highest likelihood to churn. What we've focused on for our roadmap is just continually adding features that are going to serve a good number of people, and so that meant world bosses we have coming up in the next couple of releases are going to be fun. I'm not going to talk about them, I'm not going to ruin the surprise, but after we get through this this mini sprint, our top priority is what we call the one pirate problem, which is I come to the game, I own one pirate, like this game's not that fun for me. I can't really make progress. Like I'm frustrated. And we see those people churn at a much higher rate. So like we're fully aware, like the data reflects that. We hear it qualitatively as well. And it's our top focus. We have a couple of 3 or 4 features that we are going to be working on it in order to tackle that problem. And it is incredibly important to us, right? We don't want our game to exclusively be whales. We want to make sure that the game is fun for people who have one pirate and people who have 100 pirates and everyone in between, because otherwise, like, we're not trying to build a whale community. We're not trying to build a community of minnows. Like any good game has a balance of both, where both people in the game can engage and have fun. So it's something on our radar, and it's something that we very much intend to tackle. And we have a number, like, these are solved problems as well. I'll say, like, these are not, unique problems to our game or to games in general. And so like we'll just knock it out. It's just a matter of like road mapping and priority.
Love it, man. I love the transparency, and I love that you have the data. It's like the man came with his numbers, like this is Shark Tank or something. It's fantastic. Well, I want to follow up on that and actually ask about some data and see, because as a minnow, as your high churn player here, I'm living it. I'm experiencing it. When I heard about the kill shot, the 1-of-1 NFT, I thought, well, damn, that's pretty cool. And then I thought about it for 5 more seconds, and I was like, oh, that's going to get gamed. Like fleets are going to be rolling in on this thing in the final minutes. It's just the logical process in my brain. Do you have the data on the kill shot? Was it a whale? Were there any close minnows that could have claimed it? How did that play out, or is the data not out yet, or can you not share?
Yeah, no, I can share. I mean, it happened to have been a whale. However, it's random. Like to actually be able to get that 1-on-1 was a full slot machine situation. You had 100 people at the same time trying to file the kill shot, and it's really hard to end the battle on multiple accounts at the same time. Like it happened to be a whale, but it didn't need to be a whale. It could have been anyone, and it was the skiff that fired the kill shot, if that means anything to the people on this call. So it wasn't even a fancy boat that did it.
Thanks for the extra details. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we saw some levels of wallet splitting, not as dramatic as we thought. We intentionally did not create very clear rules or guidelines around the event because we wanted to see what behavior people would take on naturally, and we wanted to see what the impact of that behavior would be on the community in terms of vibes, cost, experience overall. And so we're going to take all these learnings, we're going to take them in, we're going to come up with a set of guidelines for the next event that we do in order to model the behavior that we want to see. And we actually didn't see as much wallet splitting as we expected. Maybe 10 players or so took advantage and created a bunch of different wallets. It could be a function of the number of players in the game. It could be a function of what they think of a pirate's code, or however they think about it. But it wasn't as severe as we expected. But it was there because the incentives were there to do that. The participation rewards were quite rich, and so it's not surprising that people would want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Man,
I'll add one more thing on that, just real quick. One of the things about being an on-chain game is that we offer, these games actually offer unparalleled fairness. All the game rules and mechanics are enforced by smart contracts, right? So, everything is transparent. You can actually go on-chain and look at it. So it's not even a question of I think, someone who's splitting wallets kind of has more transactions in flight, but ultimately it's based on which transaction the miner picks up and ends up enforcing. And because of the way our game works and our system works, is everything is actually proxied through a gas relay contract, right? So there's not even an opportunity for a gas war, really, because all players' transactions are being submitted with the same amount of gas. So it's if you go on chain, you can see every single attack that occurred on the boss, and when the kill shot came in. It was it's really, really cool. I don't think there's I'm trying to think in my history of gaming, has there ever been a game that's been this transparent and how things are actually being calculated and so on? Imagine going into a WoW raid and seeing the result of every single guild's attacks and each one of them individually. That's the level of transparency that exists.
Yeah, no one's given that data because they'd be terrified that people would, cheat and reverse engineer it. So yeah, the transparency levels are probably unparalleled, man.
I mean, the whale that won, everyone could see exactly what he did, right? They saw the initial transaction, like the wallet, like how many wallet, like it was just like one of the guys in our community is a data miner, and he like reads contracts, and he's like, "You have exactly 15 wallets. I tracked them all, right?" And it was fun. Like you can't hide. There's no hiding on the blockchain, which is another really cool element of the game that we're building. You can follow and play along and see how top players are performing, and you can copy their gameplay if you want to, and you can learn from them. Like it's an open source game strategy, basically.
I love that. I just want to say one more thing. It just kind of popped into my head as I'm picturing that, it's not a gas war, but that final stretch where everyone's going for the kill shot, man, that would have been an epic moment to capture with like streams, right? Like with people streaming, like their various attempts, like a montage of like 20 people at the same time trying to get it and everyone failing. Oh man, sounds like
we had it. We had like 60 people in the VC during the kill shot.
Oh, that's so dope, man. Okay, that's beautiful.
The first and the last, and people were raiding together. It was like it really far exceeded our high expectations about how the community would rally together. The only thing that I wish we had 600 people in there instead of 60. Like it would have been even more exciting. But like the camaraderie and the like mind games that people were playing with each other was really fun. We recorded all of it. We're going to turn into promotional videos and sound bites, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Cool. Very cool, man. Yeah, that was my next thought. Just as like a media guy, that was just my thought. I'm like, oh, that's fire promo. I just want to do a quick just temperature check. Coming up, usually these are roughly an hour. Sometimes they're shorter or longer, but we're coming up on an hour and 9 minutes here. I just want to see, are you guys strict to the time? Because I want to be respectful of your time, obviously. Or is it okay if we go over a few minutes? There are a few more questions I want to get through, but totally understand if you guys have other places to be right after.
I can go over.
Yeah, right. I can go over a few minutes as well.
Let's go. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I just love this shit. So excited about it. Man, so let's see. I want to get through at least a couple of these questions. One is very specific for details in the game, so I would love to cover that as much as you guys could. This one's from Heart of Texas, shocker. He says he'd love some information on the marketplace in general. There's a building on the island. What will be the purpose of it? I'll go ahead and just pause there and then continue with the rest after. Any information you could give on like the marketplace, maybe where that's headed, or if there's
I mean, like we have intentions to like bring a lot of the trading activity into the game, into the kind of the game website and the game client itself. And we're still trying to figure it out. Like just it's no secret that one of the things that we're looking at right now is our super high gas costs on Polygon. Like just to give you context, we're spending like $2,000 to $4,000 a day on gas, and it's obviously not tenable. So we have a bunch of infrastructure improvements we're making, and we'll have more information on that in the coming weeks. But after that, one of the things that we're looking at is like, can we make it easier for people to like swap resources, to trade with each other, to buy and sell, directly within the game client. And so like the marketplace is meant to be kind of all of those like commerce style activities. But like within the Pirate Nation experience, just to keep the UX really smooth and flowing. But like the specifics on that are like they're so early. And then the other thing too is like at some point we'll start selling actual stuff directly. Like it's what you'd expect from like a gaming company, right? Is that we have a bunch of content that we've created that for folks that want different to have like a different play experience. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say top hats, like cosmetics and shit, right? Or you're saying
exactly, yeah, exactly. And so, and I'm like, we have a clear plan here, but I'm like being very kind of on purpose.
No,
I'm not
totally.
sure how much the team wants me to announce just yet, but yeah, but it's what you'd expect. It's like a lot. It's like what you'd expect.
Perfect. And then the building, the little island we have, are we building tents there? What are we doing there? Are we just chilling?
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously we already have items that are there marked as placeable. So like that is part of what I meant when I say the game's unfinished. Is that there's not yet a way to like actually take all the stuff that you're accumulating and like do things with it. But to me, like at Zynga we used to call this invest and express. So there's been a lot of invest. There hasn't been a lot of express yet. Pirate Nation, and so we gotta get to the expression side of it.
Gotcha. Totally cool. And then the last little part of the question, which I think you may have touched on, was just asking, I think it's in relation to the islands. Will people be able to buy in-game items there directly, or is that more focused on future user-generated content?
Which island? Sorry.
So your little home islands, I would assume. So maybe people show up and are able to transact directly there, or in a customized island. Oh, okay, so in reference to the marketplace building is what he's saying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think we already answered. Oh, about UGC.
Okay, perfect. Cool. No, yeah, that's.
So yeah. So UGC is like it's interesting. I mean, it's obviously a part of our company vision, and I think that when I think about it, I would say it's further afield than the stuff we're doing. It just adds an additional level of complexity. Yeah, it's just an additional level of complexity, and so I think our focus is mostly on just trying to get like the Pirate Nation kind of core loops all finished up. Expect community ever trade P Gold the way Wolfgang does with Wool. Y'all are free to do whatever you want with P Gold. We're not going to touch that stuff, but like it's your, it's you guys are free to do what you like.
Just for context for people listening afterwards, the question was in relation to LPs being able to trade the P Gold. So sounds like it's gonna be hands off from the team from the sound of that.
Yeah, we're not trying to go to jail. We're just trying to build a game platform.
That's not in your roadmap. What the hell, guys?
Yes, not part of the roadmap.
Direct to prison. All right, cool. All right, got it. One question I did skip over, which I'm curious to hear as well. I mean, obviously we've got industry veterans here from Farmville, which is plenty of inspiration for something like this. But were you inspired by any other current NFT games when building Pirate Nation? Personally, like as a Cool Cat holder, I see a lot of similarities between like Cool Pets and Pirate Nation, like the on Polygon, gasless transactions, cinematic quest, stuff like that. Did they have any inspiration, you guys, or any other projects that you'd want to note?
Wolf Game and Wizards and Dragons were really big inspirations.
Wizards and Dragons, all right.
Yeah, I mean, we actually started building the game originally. The game originally was just completely a web game. So with even if you see my PFP, right, it's this like vector art style thing, and now we're like all boxes, right? So like we have some really dope stuff dropping around there, around the visuals. For these NFTs in the future. And so like I think we stand on the shoulders of giants. I would say we're pulling inspiration from literally 50 plus years of gaming, right? Like from the 80s at least. So was that now 40 years of gaming, right? Like, I was playing games when I was like 4 years old, and I haven't stopped since then. And like, I'm 38 now, and so like, we pull inspiration from where it is. So like everything you're seeing in Pirate Nation is just like it's just references from the kind of entire history of games.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it, man. Recapture those moments, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you include William in there, I mean, he's like, our battle system's really cool because it's like it's essentially modeled after Dungeons and Dragons. Right, so internally we're doing like D20 rolls and stuff. You just don't see it, but in the contracts, I think we even call it a D20. And so like when you're playing these battles, you're you're actually playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, but like with a bunch of really nice graphics on top of it. Yeah,
it's pretty because Dungeons and Dragons, the whole allure is like it's sort of a template, right? You can build on top as much as you want in any direction you want to go. But yeah, you're building. So, yeah, love that parallel.
Exactly. It's a solid foundation that's withstood the test of time. I mean, like, if anything, what's crazy is that I think people don't realize that there's certain games out there that are actually forever games in terms of the design, right? Dungeons and Dragons is one of them. Magic the Gathering is another. And so, like, when I think about like references that we're pulling from, it's those type of games.
I love that. One thing that I wanted to bring up, just as we kind of are getting towards the end here, is we had a conversation in our Pirate Nation thread the other day. We were talking about sort of Farmville and like how quickly it sort of captured the world. You know, all of our aunts and uncles were like sending us requests and stuff for like energy. That was my take. My take was, it was all of the incessant notifications that you got from friends and family that just gave you FOMO. So I was just curious, like, are there any like interesting ways that Web3 can sort of capture that, virality, I guess. Sorry, I don't know how to word the question, but I guess sort of like a
yeah, we're the growth
marketing
hacks.
stunt.
We're the growth hacks Web3. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
got you. It's yeah, go ahead.
It's something we talk about a lot. Twitter, like when Twitter goes down, we see how reliant we are on Twitter, like for growth strategy. When our Discord engagements, are fine. We can message you in game through the message of the day, which is like that message you get when you pop in. We have all your emails. I mean, you got an email when we launched World Bosses, so there's some interesting integrations that we can do with like Telegram. There's some on-chain messaging protocols. There are ways that we will be able to contact you to like create social features or just to ping you if needed. They're never going to be as smooth as like the Facebook Notify. Like that was peak virality. But we're going to do our very best to get close to it and build that again as part of the platform, because being able to in real time message the people we need to is a very important part of creating a game like this.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing, which is that it turns out the number one way to acquire new users currently in this space is to literally just give them stuff, right? And so if you look at like, we experienced this ourselves with our mint, right? Is once we announced it's a free mint and there was a mint date and you do X, Y, Z in order to like get it. Like, it just turns out that people will jump through massive hoops to do it. Like, I don't know if anyone's actually talking about this publicly, but fuck it, I will. But like, I mean, look at what like, if you look at like, Gabe's strategy or what's happening with Dimensionals or some of the more recent stuff, it's like, essentially like retweet is effectively essentially a viral strategy, right? Like that is what it is. Yeah. And the fact that, in order to be entered, you have to like and retweet essentially means that you're getting people to to essentially spam their friends and spam all their followers with whatever message that you're trying to get them to convert to, right? And now what's interesting about it is if you have to follow this account and also retweet, what you're doing is you're giving everyone who decides to buy into that, who buys into that, this a direct line when they follow Gabe's account or they follow whoever's account. Now those people have a direct line. So for the future the future like and retweet campaign, instead of starting with a base of like 10,000 people, they're starting with a base of 100,000 people, right? And so it keeps growing that way. Now what's interesting is like so far, I'm surprised Twitter. I guess Twitter doesn't really care. They seem to think it's fine, right? Because it's just engagement for them. And I think the big thing for them is just like ensuring they're shutting down bots. But like to me, that is like that strategy is like inherently very successful, right? Like, we've seen multiple projects execute on it, and so it's pretty obvious that like Web3, like your distribution comes from just giving people stuff. Now, the one thing I'll add is that I still think there's too much friction for players to come to the game. So I think you'll get to like hundreds of thousands of players with that strategy. I don't think you get to millions of players with that strategy. And that when I say players, I mean like not just people following you at Discord or whatever, but like actual people playing your game. And I think that's because like ultimately the Web3 wallet has to go away. So I think for us, some really low hanging fruit in terms of just making the game easier to play and for more people to be able to bring more players on is to just change it so you don't actually need a wallet anymore. Change it so that you can essentially sign up with email, and that is like, and then we do like a custody wallet or something of that nature, and then that's enough to get into the game and start playing. And so like lowering that like onboarding friction is really important.
Did you were you like reading what I was doing today?
No. Were you working on?
That's what I spent like today working on.
You just front ran his announcement in the next meeting. Way to go. No, dude, yeah, 100,000% agree with everything you're saying. The like and retweet. It's most of the time it's not true either. Most of the time it's just fake. It's like just there's a whitelist or something. Everyone that reacts is entitled to nothing. Like it's everywhere. But you're right, it's effective, man. It's like I don't know, Web3 people just NFT motherfuckers turn into bots. We are the bots once free shit is on the line, right? Like we'll go do whatever, we'll follow whatever, we'll retweet whatever, join a Discord, jump through the hoops if there's money at the end of the rabbit hole. But yeah, I don't think that converts people to players. Yeah, I agree. It's not a viable, super long-term thing. Another follow-up question is, would you think of Gabe spending $7 million to buy 200K Twitter followers? Was that a good investment of his $7 million? You don't have to answer. That's okay. Well, we won't put you on the spot with Gabe there.
I'll answer it. Sure, why not?
I'll hurt his feelings.
No. I actually really respect Gabe, and so like for what it's worth, look, he raised what was it, 200 million or something? Is that the number he's publicly gone out with?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
So the way that I think about it is it's funny because there's that Silicon Valley episode of Never Show Revenue. And I think the same thing is true in Web3 of like you almost like never want to actually like make good on the promise. Like I think it's hurting us a little bit that we're like a live game with like a live product and we're not just like selling hype. Yeah, right. And so like
problematic. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fine, whatever. Like, that's it's okay. But like it's but like, the idea of there being a Super Bowl commercial, so what he got out of it was not just 200,000 followers. I think he got relevance out of it. He got months and months and months of just like we have a Super Bowl commercial coming. You don't even want to make sure you don't miss this. Like
that's fair.
There's
that's fair,
right? And so
he
like
got a narrative for months.
Exactly, and that narrative is what allowed him to get to his current base of like whatever hundreds of thousands. He may have cracked a million followers now, and like that is like a good launch pad for the next thing, right? And so, from that perspective, it maybe is a fine investment, right? Like it's, his VCs signed up, and invested in him because they know he's going to take these huge, wild, crazy swings. They're not always going to work, but like when they do, like, I think they'll work. So like, I don't know. I guess we'll look back. Well, when we have 2020 vision, like, a few years from now, we'll know whether or not it was worth it.
Nah, yeah, I think that's a pretty healthy take on it. A lot less aggressive than I was in my brain. So yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Even if the final delivery wasn't received well, it's yeah, he definitely got more value than just the followers out of that. And yeah, I guess too, another sort of viral marketing Web3 tactic. I guess I would point to Blur, right? I mean, they just came in and like did the most epic sort of like vampire, they took market share from Goliath, right? And they did it through, like you said, giving people free shit because it was like when you first did that first claim, it was like a tweet this to claim an extra box. So if you logged on Twitter that day, all you saw was literally every trader that you follow was tweeting out about the box, and then they just sort of snowballed from there. But yeah, that again, that's just giving stuff out. So maybe that's the answer, man. Maybe you give somebody a peg leg or a top hat for tweeting or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but people have to care. I think ultimately people just want to, they're here because they want to make money. Like I think like it doesn't work if everyone wants to make money. So like some people actually have to want to play the game. I do think a lot of the people who are amplifying the game are there to make money, and that's like okay. They're like mercenary in that way. And there is like a bit of a symbiotic system where like the players need the people who are there to just like promote the game for profit, and everyone kind of benefits because everyone kind of gains when the game is bigger. So actually I have to take off soon. Is there any last question?
No, man, we could totally wrap up here. If you want, I could just sort of kick it back to you. Any final words you want to leave us with? But yeah, super appreciate the conversation, man. This has been really fun, and I love talking about this stuff. And you guys seem super talented and capable, so it's been a pleasure. But yeah, if there's anything you want to send us home with, I'll go ahead and open the mic up to you, fine gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to thank you for the time, and I want to thank you guys for playing the game, sticking with us, especially with 3 pirates. I know that it feels like a grind to get your ship. I don't have my ship yet. I have like 5 pirates on my account. But thank you for playing the game. Thanks for having faith in us, and just continue to give us feedback. Like it does impact what we're doing. That being said, I'm we're Adam and I were talking about this before this meeting, how like, we tend to understate our experience and like our conviction in what we're doing, but we kind of know our shit's pretty good. Like I like look at the stuff we're building. I'm like, this is good stuff. The product is built well. And like the technology we're building is like actually innovative and like ahead of the curve. And like, it's going to take time for that story to come out. But like, I'm fairly confident this is like, some of the best work I've ever done in my career and like one of the best teams I've ever worked with. And so like, I just, I think that the product and what we're doing and then eventually the assets that we're putting out, the game we create, the community create is all going to be a representation of that core, so, but it takes time to get there. And what I'll say is that, when you look at something like Gauze and Chain or Axie, those companies existed back in 2018, right? Like I met the founder of Immutable when I was running Rarebits, right? And like, I remember when Axie launched and like, these things were like kind of meandering for years. Even CryptoPunks was around, right? But like, they were kind of meandering for years. But like, it took like, there was like a shift in the narrative and then everything just exploded from there. So just realizing this bear market that we're just building. We have our heads down, just like building really great stuff and positioning ourselves so that when, things start to shift, we're in a position to catch that wave. And so, just watch what we're up to. If you don't believe us, come join our Discord. We'll watch what we're releasing every week. And just pay attention because, more and more details of what we're doing will come out.
And yeah, echo everything that Amit said. It sounds like you have your own thread in here about Pirate Nation. Bring that chat into our Discord, and so you can mix and mingle with the Pirate Nation people. I'm sure they would benefit from seeing the discussion that you're having. As we're going to keep building, we got money in the bank, we have a vision, and we're just going to keep going. And we're going to start talking about it a lot more publicly and exposing the platform that we're building. And we're really excited for the game that we're building. And we're also excited about other people eventually using the platform that we're building as a way to accrue value back to our company and to, everyone involved in our ecosystem. And so, every day we just are getting better and better and better. And the systems get tighter and our team gels. And, I think we're at peak efficiency right now. And every time I've thought that, we've exceeded that. So I'm really excited to see where we go from here.
Love it, fellas. Yeah, we're excited too. There's a lot of sharps and smart people in Metaverse HQ. So I'm happy that they have recognized and sort of what you're building and sort of the ethos, everything that you're working towards. Like you said, the story is kind of going to write itself. But smart people seem to have recognized that you guys are cooking something up over there. So yeah, love to see it. And yeah, I'm sure people would love to get the alpha from MVHQ members and all the game theory over in the server and stuff. But who knows? Maybe some people will dabble over and sail over to your seas over there. But again, thanks so much for taking the time and coming through and talking to us about it. I'm glad that you guys are stepping out now, sort of opening up more to do like sort of press tour type stuff. And I'm happy I can be one of the first people to talk to you about this stuff and sort of get the inside scoop. So much respect, very much appreciated. And yeah, we'll see you guys around.
Yeah, thanks again for having us and the thoughtful questions.
Yeah, thanks for hosting. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Hey, us too, man. The transparency of data, we're off the charts. So yeah, keep it up.
We got data on that.
Take care.
Love it. All right. Well, you'll have a fantastic rest of your day or rest of your night, and yeah, we'll see you on the seas.
See ya.